Welcome to the Troy Kearns Podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
What's up, everybody? This is Troy Kearns on the Troy Kearns Podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest. And if you're a man right now and you're listening and you're trying to get a date, you might want to pay attention right now. Or if you're trying to meet the woman of your dreams, you might want to pay attention right now. Right now, I have Andrea McGinty, founder of It's Just Lunch, and also founder of 33,000 Dates. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's nice to be here. And I'm really excited that your audience is very male centric, because I have a lot of things to say to men, and I work with a lot of men, and I help a lot of women online looking at men's profiles. And sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, did he really write that? Did he really put that picture out there? So, all right, I'm ready to roll.
So I like that. So like, what things do guys write that is a no-no, or what kind of pictures do we take or show that we really shouldn't?
Okay, let's start with, just to warm up a little bit, let's start with what they write.
Okay.
So, we all know online dating is a visual medium. So
Right.
just like you guys are looking at photos of women before you read a single thing, right? So are women. We're looking, we're looking at photos first. So those bios or profiles, whether it's on Hinge or Bumble or Tinder or even Match.com or something, there's two things. One, men will either write nothing, zero. And so we know like nothing except, these couple of photos. And
Right.
then women start to think, okay, so how engaged is this guy really in the process? Is he really, just looking for hookups? Is he really looking for a serious relationship? I don't think so, because he really didn't write anything. Then on the other hand, you have men that write a book. It's like a mini novel, and it's going on and on and on. And they even talk about like past relationships. No, we don't care. We don't leave some surprises for us, on the first date. So I would say, the right amount to write. And when you think about like stuff you guys read, whether it's, Men's Health or Sports Illustrated or stuff like that, they write in very short, paragraphs or bullet points. When you're doing a profile, think like the magazines that you guys read. So write in really short, bullet points, get a couple points across about yourself, and then don't put something like yesterday, I was working with a female client, and this man wrote, "You may apply for this job in my life if you meet these 10 criteria. And then there were 10 criteria. And we were both laughing so hard, because I don't know where this woman is that, I think she used to be married to Tom Brady, the one they were looking for. So,
Yeah, for sure.
so don't write too much. Okay, that's the first thing. You want to talk about photos?
I was going to back up a little bit, because
Sure.
So one of the reasons that you're a big expert on this is because you founded It's Just Lunch. And I was telling you right before the show that for those of you guys who don't know what It's Just Lunch is, it was like monumental for a lot of people. Let me describe it the way I saw it. I never used it, but I know many people who did. Okay. And the reason I didn't use it is because it was expensive. And I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. I just was too cheap. But I had several of my friends who used it. It was probably one of the most premier dating things in Seattle for meeting like really classy women and really meeting professional. That's the way I understood it. Like I was telling, and I tried to get you guys on as a client when I was selling advertising in Seattle, Washington. And I remember I could never get you guys to spend any money with me. So now 25 years later, we meet. But tell me about like, how did you get into that industry, and why have you stayed in that industry?
Well, okay, I've stayed because I love what I do. I've had over 10,200 marriages. So, I've got like a passion about this whole thing. So, okay, I started I'll go back. I've just always been good at fixing people up. Like my 2 college roommates, I fixed them up. They are still married. And
Mm,
okay, I have an accounting and finance degree that I have never ever used
right.
because I was living in Chicago at the time and I was like in my early 20s and I was getting married. And 2 days before the wedding, he called it off. So,
Wow.
I was like, oh, this, after going through like the crying and the
Two
sadness
two
and
days before the wedding?
2 days, 2 days,
What a
people were
freaking
already in town. We were
what a
ready to go.
jerk.
It stunk. And so, what happened to me next was, well, what happens to everyone, at least like Seattle or, Chicago, Boston, they're good markets for people in their 20s, right? Young people are still going to the bars, but, I'm in my early 20s, I'm kind of over that. And
Mm,
friends are fixing me up on dates, and I'm finding, oh, wow, no more dinner dates. Forget
mm.
it. It's way too long. And I started just doing lunch dates. And then my friends were really bad at fixing me up. So then I started thinking, what if there was like an executive recruiter calls you, right, about your career path and maybe some professional opportunities? What if there was somebody who was calling me and saying, hey, Andrea, I've got like 3 great men for you. Let me tell you about them. I was like, I would love this person, somebody calling me and doing that. That's how It's Just Lunch started. I thought nobody's doing this, and it's 1990. There's no Google, there's no online dating, there's
Mm,
nothing, right? There's
yeah.
like nothing like that. So I started in Chicago. It took off, and by 2010, so fast forward 20 years, we have 110 locations
Wow.
globally, and I sell out to private equity. And the
Awesome.
whole reason, it was the weirdest thing. I had 2 offers for It's Just Lunch. One from Match.com, who owns a ton of dating services, including like Hinge, which probably some of your listeners use. Tinder, I'm sure a lot of them have used that one too. But anyway, and then the private equity firm. But what really made me sell was I started to see the writing on the wall, and online dating, it was coming of age, and it was getting better and better and better
Mm,
compared to when it started coming out in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was just like this chaotic mess.
yeah.
First of all, people didn't know what they were doing online. And second, the people who were running these apps and these sites, they didn't know what they were doing either. And there was
Yeah.
no like verification. You didn't know, there was so much scamming going on. And I thought, wow, I could really help people with this whole process online. And then by the time we hit like 2015, people really started to get their ducks in a row and knew what they were doing online. And there were now photos, and poses you had to do to make sure you were really that person. And there was ways to check your identification online, that you were who you said you were, and that your photos weren't 10 or 20 years old, that they were current. So that all started because my brother my brother was like in his 40s and had just gotten divorced.
Mm,
And I was taking some time off after selling It's Just Lunch and, traveling. I did like 2 years of travel with my kids, and we went all over the place. Okay. But like, I still love this industry. And my brother called me and said, I am meeting the worst people online.
mm,
It, excuse me, sucks.
right.
And and I said, okay, Jim, give me your login and give me your password and let me take a look. And here he is. He's a good looking guy. He's CFO of a
Yeah.
company. And I get into his profile. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to talk about some of this later, what men do online. His photos were absolutely ridiculous, just ridiculous. And his profile was pretty much non-existent. So anyway, I go on there and I fix it all up. And a couple weeks later, Jim says, "Oh, hey, by the way, I'm getting some really good dates. What'd you do?" And I'm like, you don't need to know. So after that, it became word of mouth, and I thought, oh, geez, I've got to do this. I miss the one-on-one contact, with
Yeah.
clients. In the beginning of It's Just Lunch, of course, I was doing everything. But as a company, you have
It got
100
big. It got
locations. I don't
Not
have
that
any
big.
contact. I'm the CEO. And we have 700 employees. So I
Wow.
started 33,000 dates because at that point, that was how many people I had fixed up on dates. So
Wow.
hence the name. And of course, I can't keep changing my name as the numbers grow. So we're just leaving it at 33,000dates.com. So that's how I got into this. And I really help people all the steps of online dating because there's 1,400 sites and apps out there, 1,400 dating platforms. And if you pick the wrong one, like, okay, you guys out there, if you picked Match.com, let's just say, it's going to be 80% men. That's not the site you want to be on. You want to be on a female centric site. That would be like the wrong site. And you would get discouraged really fast and quit and think online dating is, terrible, horrible, whatever. And I really came up with a very strategic, business-like way of taking my clients through the entire process online, and over 65% end up meeting somebody that leads to either a long-term relationship or marriage or living together or something like that.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Andrea, I was an early adopter of the online dating, and I remember like I was on match.com, and what you were just talking about there resonates because I remember going out and doing these coffee dates and meeting these people who have a picture, and you're like, that is not you. That is not you. And I left. Like I got to the point where I would just leave, because I was like false advertising. So what has changed? I haven't been on since, I've been with the same woman for 15 years. I've been married since 2015 and been dating since 2010. And I don't think I was online since 2005, but I was on match.com. I was on Plenty of Fish, and that was it.
Oh yeah, you were on two sites you shouldn't have been on. Did you meet your wife on one of those?
No, believe it or not, we actually met through a friend the old fashioned way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be surprised if you met your wife on either one of those sites.
I had terrible experience with online dating. I met the craziest. I met women with like cat hair all over them. Like I met the crazies of the crazies when I was online dating. So I definitely do not know what I'm doing. And I don't want to ever be on online dating. I want to be happily married forever. But for people who are trying to meet the one, a couple things that like jumped into my brain is number one, if I was doing it today, I would probably use like AI to create my profile based on what you just told me. Is that a suggestion to versus try to write it myself?
Be careful. Be
Yeah.
careful with AI. AI is very easily recognizable. So here's what I would say. And by the way, I love AI, but use it sparingly. So I'll give you an example. I had a man like 2 weeks ago who came to me to use my services, as a dating coach, and I write their profiles for him. And he showed me his profile that he had written that was not resonating online. And I was like, "You didn't write this, did you? AI wrote it." And he goes, "How
Yeah.
could you tell?" And I said, "Because this is what it was about. This guy's a sailor, okay? That's what he likes to do in his free time, okay? He likes to sail. And then everything in his profile, it was probably 3 paragraphs long, was join me on the voyage of life. There are many fish in the sea. It was like, I was like, this is so AI. This is so AI. So here's what I would say. I would say, write your own or just write bullet points.
Yeah.
And then put it into AI, and don't use Claude or Dale, because Claude writes very flowery, and I can almost right away tell somebody uses Claude. Chat GPT, pretty good, but you don't want to use their whole thing. So put the bullet points in, and have them do a couple versions, maybe one's witty, maybe one's funny, rewrite it professionally and funny. And then you just edit it a little bit, but don't go with straight AI. And the other giveaway to AI is they'll use some words that we don't use, that we just don't use in everyday conversation. That right away, as a dating expert, I recognize, and I'm like, total AI, total AI.
Yeah. So how are the dating? You said there's 14. How many did you say? 1,400 Dating sites?
1,400 dating platforms. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like back in the day when I was doing it, it was almost taboo to say you met online. It was like you had to come up with a story for your story. Like, okay, where are we telling people we met? But now it's very like accepted. It's universal. Pretty much, is anybody meeting out there normally in a normal way anymore?
No, pretty much not. I've got 3 kids, 20, 22, and 25. And even my youngest ones, the youngest two, are in college. They're all using Tinder, right now. But my oldest daughter, she's using Hinge because she's a little smarter. They're still a little too young, and so no, that whole meet in the wild or meeting organically. No, people really aren't meeting that way anymore. It's when you've got online dating at your fingertips, you've got thousands of people, no matter where. I mean, if you're based in Seattle or I'm based in West Palm Beach or in Palm Beach, Florida, Boston, Chicago, it doesn't matter where you are, even smaller towns like San Antonio. It's going to really give you, a good group of people if you're understanding the algorithms and the filters to use. Because what that can do is it can take it down from like a needle in a haystack to like a needle like in a little Easter basket. And it makes it so much, so much easier to find the type of person that you're looking for. And when I'm directing my clients to the right site for them, it's not just me. I start with a 1 hour Zoom call with my clients and they fill out some paperwork. But what I do, I'm thinking the whole time they're talking about, where do I think he belongs? Which site would I put him on? And just because something works in New York doesn't mean it works in Chicago or excuse me, like a Dallas. I'll give you an real quick example. Coffee Meets Bagel is a popular dating app in New York, LA, and Miami. This client was in Dallas, and I asked him, "Why are you using Coffee Meets Bagel?" And he said, "Well, because my best friend's in New York, and he met his wife there." And I'm like, that makes sense. You do what your friends do, right? Or you get recommendations. Not a good place, for Dallas because they almost have, no members. So when I'm looking for the right site for you, and I tend to go with the top 25, top 50 platforms, but like I said, I'm research driven. I use Pew, Statista, Nielsen, and I forgot one of their names. But anyway, I pay for this research and I can basically, Troy, if you were single, I could put your demographics in, where you live, level of education, what you're looking for, and it would spit out to me the top 5 dating sites. And it will also give me, and most people can't do that because you can't afford this, this to do just for yourself, this kind of research. But I'm doing it for lots of people at the same time. But it will also tell me the percentage of men and women on the site too. So that's the other factor that's really important. So
where's the best ratio? Andrea, where's the best ratio for men looking for women?
I would say for your demographic, if we're talking about 30s and 40s, I would say Bumble would be number 1 because it's like 75 to 80% women.
Wow.
And then I would say my second choice. And Bumble's also going to have like a little bit of a higher end client too, a more educated base, I should say. And then Hinge is also very good. I like both of those sites. Now, the key to those 2 sites, though, is you need 5 or 6 fantastic pictures because you're only allowed to post that amount. And it's going to ask you a couple of prompts. So you're not going to write a bio for those like you would for Match.com. It's going to ask you just a couple prompts. And it'll let you do like, I don't know, 200, 250 characters. Try not to use that many characters. Try to say it in like 60 characters and be really quick with what you say. My favorite dessert is we don't need a long thing about you take cooking classes and blah, 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 blah,
All that BS, right? All the BS that nobody does and everybody writes in their online profile like it signifies their whole life, and they don't do any of it. They're like, I like to go to the gym every day, and they never go to the gym, right?
Right, exactly. Or people write travelogues. A prompt on one of the prompts on Bumble is, something I really like to do, and then they write travel, and then they list like Morocco, Paris, Istanbul, like a list. And I'm like, this is not a travel recommendation website. This is
Yeah.
for your love life.
Right.
So you can, what do you really like to do every day? Like, let's be honest. Let's say, hey, my golden retriever Wesley, I'm teaching him new tricks. He's got 1,000 views already on TikTok. That's a fun answer.
Right. For
Something
sure.
like that.
So, okay, let's go. So we got the profile created. We're starting to get some hits on it. What's the best way to connect and seal the deal for a date?
Well, the best way is a couple of texts back and forth. Skip the phone. Skip the FaceTime. Skip that phone call, because meet the person. And especially if you're using like a couple of the sites I mentioned, they've already pre-screened the photos for you. So
Right.
these photos that you're like looking at, they're within the last 2 years. So you're not going to show up on a date and the woman's going to be like 40 pounds heavier than,
Right.
right? I mean, we all care. Women care, men care.
Yeah.
So the best way is, one message very specific about something, they said or showed a picture of. They write back, you write back, they write back. So, two, and then going for the, hey, how about a drink at Bistro 110, Saturday afternoon at 4, or, Monday after work.
Right.
Which one works for you? You don't want to say things like, let's meet I'd like to meet you sometime. Sometimes equals never. You're never ever going to meet.
You got to close it.
Yeah, close the deal and stay off that phone. That phone is such a cop out. The only way I say to use the phone is if somebody's like maybe an hour and a half away from you that you're super interested in, maybe then do a 10-minute call with her, a FaceTime call, and make it FaceTime so you can see her. And how I would phrase that in my text to her, I would say, hey, love to meet you, halfway. Let's do a 10-minute chat via FaceTime to see if we'd like to meet in person.
Wow.
What you've done there is you've set boundaries. This call is going to be 10 minutes and it's got a goal to meet in real life, right? We don't need you chatting for half an hour or an hour. Like, save it for the date.
Right. You might kill your chances, right? Like you might over talk. You might say something stupid. So now we're on the date. I think that like my thinking was what I learned, and I'm just going to throw it out there. Like when I was dating, it's been some time, but it was, I quit like you talked about the dinners and everything like that, because you got trapped, right? You're like with this person you don't want to be with. So like, what would you say? Do coffees, do drinks, something where you can cut and run if it doesn't work out?
I would say do lunch. It's an hour. Do a drink. That could be 45 minutes to an hour. I think coffee's a cop-out date.
Really?
Coffee, Starbucks, come on. That is hardly romantic. And you know what? She's going to show up in her Lululemons. You're going to show up, in workout gear because you're going to the gym right afterwards or something. Like, it's not a real date. Now, on the other hand, if you say, you both are super into hiking. If you said, hey, I'll meet you at the Starbucks, let's grab a coffee and let's do this hike. And it's a safe place. Like, it's not like, somewhere nobody ever goes hiking, where it's, wide open, somewhere wide open, where you're walking and talking and doing something, then I'm okay with it. But like a coffee date, a whole bunch of people in Starbucks, sitting next to somebody, I can't even tell you when I take my youngest daughter to Starbucks, how many times She's like, Mom, pay attention to me, because all I'm doing is listening to the people at the next table who are obviously on a first date.
Yeah.
And now she listens to people at tables too. I've taught
Yeah.
really wonderful habits, because they're on a first date. And we're all listening, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, none of that.
Well, I think so. What you're saying is like, if you're trying to find someone serious, then you got to take it serious. Now, what about people who are just trying to hook up? Like, is that still okay? Is that something that like you consult with clients on? Like, or are you more focused on the actual the love relationship? Because I know like there's people in different stages of their life. I know for sure men. I don't know how women are exactly. I hope that my wife was never that way. But,
The answer to that is both. So I would say probably 2/3 of my clients come to me because they want the serious relationship. Uh, Hookups, absolutely, those are still going on, and I'll talk a little bit about those too, because if you're younger, that might be what you're looking for, and especially if you're on something like Tinder and you didn't pay for it. Now, if you're on Tinder Premium or Tinder X, you paid for it, which means you're looking for something more serious. But
mm,
Tinder is, a lot of it's more of a hookup. So what I would say, to those people, and it can also be people in their 30s and 40s on Tinder looking for hookups, because they might have just gotten out of a 5-year relationship and they
yeah.
want to dip their toes back in the dating pool. And they're definitely not ready to get serious. They want to see what's out there. So that's where like the hookup thing with the 30s and 40s comes in more often. And women, women are no different than men, really. I mean, do we want hookups? Sometimes, yeah, we do too. So you guys don't have to feel bad about that. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Now, if you're looking for that serious relationship, I would say absolutely pay. So because you can do Hinge or Bumble for free too, and if you're
Right.
doing it for free, to me that says you're more hookup material, and you don't have any skin in the game.
Right.
Um, Now, if you want to see the really good people on Bumble and Hinge, they're only going to show you kind of the bottom feeders because there's algorithms that work. I mean, I know how this stuff works. One of my
Yeah.
friends, is at Bumble, works at Bumble, and they'll show you the people that
Yeah.
you don't want to end up with, long
Yeah.
term. Maybe a hookup's fine, but not a long term relationship. So if you're looking for the long term, pay. If you're not, do Tinder. And Tinder has people all the way up to 50. So if that's what you want.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned something to me the other day. Me and my buddy went to a trip on Mexico just a couple weeks ago. We just got back, and he was mentioning, he's like, "Do you know that people like our younger generation, I'm 47, he's 43 or 44. He's like the younger generation, like kids around your children's age, Andrea. He said that they're like they don't know how to even like have sexual relationships is what he basically said. And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, they're attached to their phones." Do you see that to be the case? Or I mean, I don't know. I'm not attached. I've got 2 young kids myself, but they're not into that yet. They're 12, you know?
Thank God they're not into that yet. Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So, yeah, that age group, yeah, they're very attached to their phones, and the hookup thing for them, like dating is not a thing yet for them. And, like dating becomes a thing like when they're like 27 or 28.
Okay.
At this point, it's like, parties, hookups, and they're attached to their to their phones, and just they don't think twice about intimacy or having sex with somebody that they just meet at a party. It's recreational, a very different way than I was brought up, um,
Right.
where there had to be that emotional connection, and a relationship going and stuff. But there's no more rules about oh, wait, even the hookup culture, there's no rules like about, oh, wait till the third encounter with somebody before sleep with them. Mm-mm.
So
It,
it's
it
so
happens.
what is the rule regarding that now?
There is no rule. There's no rules anymore. So, in terms of if you're looking for, long-term relationship, um, it generally happens on the third or fourth date. That's when intimacy, starts becoming a part because you know what? Let's face it. You want to know if you're compatible in the bedroom, right? With
For sure.
sex. And
Yeah.
you're not going to wait 6 months like, maybe our parents did.
Right.
I don't know. My parents were Catholic. I think they waited until like they got married.
Wow.
You know, and so but in general it's a third or fourth date for somebody who's really looking for a relationship, and I'm not talking about the Tinder, no pay culture, because to them it's just, hey, this is what I signed up for, this is what you signed up for, basically sex.
What about people who are like trying to go out of country? Like I know that that's pretty popular right now as well. Like people who are doing like Latin Cupid or something like that. I have friends who have done international. Do you encourage that, or is there something to be said about that? Is that even worth talking about?
Well, well, when your friends are doing it, tell me how they're doing it.
I know a couple guys like, well, I know one individual who does my SEO. I won't say his name, but he does all my SEO, and he's gone to Mexico several times, and he'll physically go there. That's the person that I'm thinking of, and I do know other people a long time ago that before the online thing really took off, they were going on these cruises, and they were looking for people like the Romanians that would marry them or whatever it was. I actually know a guy, actually a friend of mine, who was married and divorced from Seattle. I live in Kansas City now, but from Seattle, and he went to Russia. And he ended up getting married to a Russian woman. And so I know with online, the reason I'm asking that, I know with online, it's access is a lot easier than getting on a plane and flying 7,000 miles.
Oh yeah, online so easy. So if your friend went to Mexico, I don't know if your friend already had people he had
Yes,
connected with, and so he was ready to meet them already.
he
Um,
was.
oh, he was okay. Yeah, yeah. So fine, because you know what? We're all attracted to different things. I have men that are just 100% attracted to Asian women, so
Mm,
they will get on these Asian websites, and you know what? They don't care if they go to Indonesia to go meet this person, or go to Mexico,
right.
or Central America or something. Do I encourage it? Well, if that's the only thing you're attracted to, like if that's just your look, and it's not because you're Asian yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
it never is. It's generally
Yeah.
Caucasian, men,
Yeah.
and that's what they're attracted to. Then I send them in the direction of very targeted Asian or Hispanic, Russian. Um, some European sites, and they find people there. So you can do that. Is that the majority of people? No, because in the U.S. alone, if you're hopping on, and I don't work for Bumble or Hinge, by the way, but
Yeah.
I just keep using them because of our audience. If that's what you're looking for, there's filters and algorithms that I would say you should be able to meet this person in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So, one of your best attributes is that you're able to connect people, right? Like to make those marriages and stuff like that. So for the people that are taking it very seriously and they want to get to that next level, like now they've done the date, they've done the match, they got the great profile, they've hooked up with you, so they know how to write the right stuff on their profile to attract the right person. They've got the right verified photos. How long is too long? Because I know that there are people who are stuck in these relationships for 5, 7 years. Obviously, guys have a hard time committing. Myself, I took 5 years before I got married, and my wife, thank God, was patient because I'm so glad she was. But how long is too long, and when is it time to cut and run? And when should you go for it if you're a guy, if you know you got the right one?
Well, if you know you've got the right one, I would say the average amount of time in this culture now, from relationship to living together, if that's what you decide, is your idea of the long term exclusive relationship or marriage. Did you and your wife live together first?
We did.
Yeah, okay. So, like, you guys had that practice time too. So, it wasn't really 5 years because you already had some time living with her.
That's right.
Like that day in, day out,
Yes.
things happen. The first few dates, the first few months, we're all on our best behavior, right?
Yes.
We're, we're,
Yes.
we're wonderful. We look
That's
great
right.
every day,
Yeah.
etc. But when you're living with somebody day to day, you really can see the things that could potentially bug you, or they don't bother you at all, right?
Yeah.
So before committing, I think it depends on your age and where you are in your career too.
Yeah.
Somebody who's 32, just got out of grad school, maybe worked a few years in between, and really they're going full speed on in their career. They just might not be ready. They're
Right.
still at the acquisition stage where they're quite, they're moving along the corporate ladder or whatever they're doing, and they're just not ready for marriage. So I would say, generally speaking, though, for it to become exclusive. So let's start with that piece.
Okay.
You meet somebody online, you really like her, and you've gone on a couple dates, you still really like her. While you're going on those other dates, you should not stop dating other people. You should keep dating other people until I don't know. Is it date 7? Is it date 8? That all of a sudden you're like, I really like her. I don't want to see anyone else. And that's when a relationship becomes exclusive. And sometimes people have conversations about it, and it can go like this. I really like you, and I think I'm going to take my profile down from Bumble. And you'll see right away, what does she say? Does she say, oh, thanks?
Yeah.
Or,
Good. Thank you. I'm
yeah, no,
not.
thank you. Or does she say, oh, awesome, you know what, I'm going to take mine down too? That then you're exclusive. On the other hand, if the feelings are mutual, you're going to know right then and there. Um, so I would say, going from dating to exclusivity, it's going to happen somewhere between date number 6 and date number 15. Like, there's no reason to rush it. No reason to rush it. Okay, after that, when do you like commit? There is no time frame. I
Okay.
I would say 6 months to a year. Probably you should at least in that age group be living together, or be making future plans for whatever your relationship's going to look like. I mean, some people don't believe in marriage. Great, but they believe
Yeah.
believe in exclusivity and a long term relationship. But I still find the majority of people, and even people who say, oh, I'm never getting married, they meet the right person. I would say probably 90% of them change their mind about it.
100%.
And not because of pressure, but just because, wow, this she's it for me. That
My
type
life
of,
got better. My life got better, and I want to commit. Yeah, that's what happened with
yeah.
me. I was that guy. I was 100% that guy. I even told her, like, I'm not ever getting married. You can just forget about it. She said, "What about kids?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And then next thing you know, I'm like, "Well, I don't want to have kids without getting married." So she knew how to. She knew how. She played me like a fiddle. She knew what she was doing. And uh, Andrea, so like people who want your help, and you've got all this great knowledge, you've got 33,000 dates plus 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 plus, you've got you're doing that. How does somebody connect with you and get your help? You've got a book that you just wrote. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, my book just came out at the end of January, and it's called Second Acts: Winning Strategies for Dating. And what I really like about the book is, well, I've been doing this for over 30 years, so I poured my heart and soul into this book. But what I like about it is, in the book itself, I don't care if you're 20 or you're 60. There's 15 worksheets in the book. And there's also QR codes to go along with it. And the QR codes, it's me coaching you through filling out that worksheet. So it's very business-like, action-oriented. And I'll give you an example. The first worksheet is, where's your head at? Like, where is your head at? Did you just come out of a terrible marriage and there was a custody battle and you're still not over that whole thing? Or have you not been dating for a long time, or whatever? So you're going to answer these questions. And by the time you get done with this worksheet, you're going to know, like, oh, I'm ready to date, or I think I've got some stuff to work on. And then, it pops around to different things. Like, there's another worksheet on branding. I know we're not like a can of Coke, where we're branding, but we have brands. You have a brand on your podcast. We have brands on LinkedIn and Instagram 100%. And, anywhere we are, we have a brand, and we're going to have a brand online too. So there's a worksheet about, what do you want your brand to look like? And then there's another one that helps you, with prompts and filling out your profile and checklists for photos. But then the last one of my favorite ones, is you write a business plan for your personal life. It's one page, and people are like, what? I have to write a business plan for my personal life? That is so unromantic. That is so weird. And it's not weird, because this is somebody who's going to make or break the happiness in your life. Not that somebody else is going to make you happy, but who you end up with determines a lot of your, happiness, how you get along together.
Your success as well.
Yeah. Oh,
I will give my wife props. I think that we are more successful together as a unit. And I think that that's what, like, we didn't touch on it, but I feel like, I don't give her enough credit, but I think that behind every good man is a better woman. And if guys truly understand that, like, and I read that in books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and stuff like that, but like, and I think that's what you're really getting at, is you're trying to connect people, right? And you're trying to give them the best strategy to get them what's going to make them happy, what's going to make them successful, what's going to make them ultimately live a fulfilling life, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, you asked how people get a hold of me. This is the other thing that I would say is fun to do. So
Yes.
if you go on my website, and it's 33,000dates.com. So it's 33000dates.com.
We'll link to it for you.
There's a quiz right on the front page, and it's 16 questions, and it's going to give you a score. And what you're going to be up against, it's going to show you the comparison against your age group and people who have been successful in love and dating, and where you fall on the scale. So, and it'll give you like areas you need to work on, or maybe, areas where you're, exceeding expectations. But it's a fun quiz, but it's very informational for you too. So I think you'll start thinking a little deeper about, your love life and dating. Then, of course, on my website, there's a link to get me. And, if you want to do a free 15-minute, consult with me to see, if I can help you along the coaching process. Photos, guys, this is so important. The photos that you post, because, as we said earlier, everyone looks at the photos first, women, men, everybody. You've got to post good photos. And this is what a good photo is. Good photos are action-oriented photos, but not a photo of you, sitting at your desk, or your LinkedIn photo. We don't care about your LinkedIn photo, or a professional photograph with like this swirly background behind you or something, like, ugh. We want to see you doing stuff, golf club in your hand, scuba diving, hiking. We don't care what you do. Just do, that you're doing something in these photos. And these photos that drive us nuts are the ones of you guys like, why do you take pictures in your bathroom mirror? Like, nobody gets that. None of us get that as a woman. We all look at these, and when I'm coaching women, we're like, Why did he do that? Or you're holding, a big fish. We don't get it.
Oh,
Like
I get that. I get that one 100%. That's like bragging rights, Andrea.
the
This is
fish.
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Maybe if you're with your bros, it's a bragging rights.
Oh, so
Girls,
no on the fish pictures.
women don't care. Or the other picture, men take pictures of themselves in their car. And I'm like, why don't you just show us a picture of you in your car? You can't even see. It's not like, you're in a F1 car, or, you're in a NASCAR
Maserati.
race.
Yeah,
Or
like
Maserati or anything. It's like all we can see is like your face and like that thing behind your head. Like, why are we looking at this? So make them action oriented and make them, make sure you're smiling in a couple, and then also have a couple picture. No, not a couple. Have one photo of you with other people. And I don't mean with like 50 people, but you with at least 2 or 3 other people, because it shows you have a social life. It shows you have friends. Or it could be family pictures, it could be from Christmas or Hanukkah or Easter or, 4th of
well,
July.
even if you don't have anybody, find someone and take a picture with them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right. Exactly. But just, we want to see interesting pictures, because a picture, just like when you're looking at pictures of us, you want to see a full body shot of us, right? You want to see
oh,
what
100%. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You want to see a full body. We want to see a full body of you.
Right.
We want to see your smile.
Right.
We want to see, and if you're like this in all your pictures, like this, you know what it means? It means you have bad teeth. So
Ooh.
this is what I would say. Go to the dentist before you go online and get your teeth fixed and get them whitened. So you
Yeah.
can smile, because that's a big thing for people, like nice teeth.
Yeah.
I know maybe that sounds like okay, you could have facial hair. Make sure it's like trimmed and
Right.
nice, and it's not like you're living off the grid, it's down to here. So
It's
good.
all about first impressions, right? Because at
Yeah,
the end of the day, if you're doing online dating, you're trying to get the attention of whoever. And if you don't have the best advertising, then you're not going to get the best attention. Let's say you can't afford to fix your teeth. Like, should you just smile regardless, or what do you think there? Like,
ugh,
I mean,
well,
because I'm sure that's very self-conscious for a lot of people, right? Like if your teeth are bad, I know people with bad teeth. And like, when you don't have that, aren't blessed with a good smile. I mean, it's like, I've seen people wear face masks because of it. I know people who have done that.
yeah, that's kind of a tough call, because that smile does do a lot. And I mean, the reality is, prices have come down to, like, you don't even have to go to the dentist if you're trying to fix it. Take that 1 year and get that $500 Invisalign, and
Yeah.
straighten your teeth that way, and then do the home crest strips.
Yeah.
And you can get around it kind of.
Fix it is what you said. Get it
Yeah,
fixed.
do get it fixed, because it will hold you back.
Yeah, I agree. It's we're all vain human beings, and the better we look, the better we feel, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, do you have any of the socials? Can people connect with you on that?
Yep. You can connect with me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm really not into Facebook.
Yeah.
YouTube. I'm all over YouTube. So if you want to watch like some of my videos, about like things to do on dates, what to wear. Oh yeah. Okay. Look, when you show up on your first date, make sure, and this is probably more directed at the guys 35 to 45.
Right.
Like, don't go out on dates like dressed like your dad,
Mm,
with like some old plaid shirt on or something. Even if you don't have a big expense account for clothing, get like 2 date outfits, and that aren't cargo shorts, and that you have like a decent pair of shoes, and I don't mean fancy shoes. I mean, you could wear tennis shoes as long as they're nice and clean. Um, but a couple of cool shirts, and a pair of pants, and a cool pair of shorts. Like, just and plus, it's going to make you feel better too. Like,
yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm looking good. I've got, like, my new duds on.
For sure. And I think these days with places like Shein, you can look like $1 million for about $10. You know what I mean? Like you can really go, the money doesn't, it's not holding you back from having designer clothes or at least looking like you have designer clothes.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We don't care if you have designer clothes on. We just care that you're, groomed, and it looked like you cared when you showed up on the date with us.
That's
That's what we care about.
Well, I definitely really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your wonderful years of knowledge. And the fact that you're still in this practice tells me that you really care about connecting people, from the time that you connected your college roommates to still connecting 33,000 plus dates, et cetera. It's been a pleasure to talk with you today. Guys, make sure you give Andrea a 5-star review. I definitely would appreciate it. We're going to link to all of the things that you talked about on this podcast, to your website, to your YouTube channel, to your Instagram, to your LinkedIn. Did you want to add anything else before we took off?
No, just as far as maybe just one more thing. So on your first date, keep everything positive. Like no big deep questions into why did you get divorced? Oh, what happened to your last relationship? Why did you guys break up? That's not appropriate conversation. Or don't ask this question. Don't be like, so how's it been for you on Hinge? Have you met any decent people? Don't ask that question. Don't ask that question. If she asks you something like that, here's your answer. You say, oh, it's been fabulous. I've met so many interesting people, just not the right one yet.
Ooh, great answer.
That's the answer. So, stay away from those loaded questions. Talk about common interests you have, because there were things in her profile that you liked, or things you saw in her picture that you liked. And talk about, books or film, or, careers or fun stuff going on in the media, etc.
Awesome. Well, I've appreciated all your time, Andrea. You've been a pleasure, a guest, such a wealth of information. I think it's something that's so important to so many people. I'm glad that you've been able to impact so many people. Guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Make sure you give us a 5-star review, and we'll check you on the next one. Man, I am so happy that you turned into the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for over 3 years right now. We're up to 150 podcast episodes. A lot of them are virtual. A lot of them are in studio, which is what we prefer. If you have a guest that you think that should be on our podcast, all you got to do is comment who it is, and we'll reach out to them. Or if you want to reach out to them and reach out to us, we'd love to have them on a show. We're looking for entertaining, inspirational people that, just like you hear on the podcast every week, that can bring value and help our listening audience achieve their goals. If that's something for you, comment down below and let us know.